Hi, Olaomi Olani here. This Marketing of One episode you're about to listen to is part one of a two-part episode with Lisa Apolinski, a digital marketer who has been in marketing for 30 years. There's so much to learn from her, and I couldn't help but ask more and more questions. And at the end of the day, we couldn't fit all of that into just one episode. If you're new to the Marketing Over Wine podcast, please hit the follow or subscribe button, whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, or any other podcast platform. And remember to hit the notification bell so you're updated when part 2 drops. Now let's dive into part 1.
I don't know about you, but it makes me kind of crazy when I get email upon email upon email upon email from a company that I haven't yet engaged with, but they're treating me like I need to spend money with them. And I don't have that trust and relationship factor going yet.
Yeah.
And it actually becomes irritating to get emails from them because it's like getting a bunch of spam mail in your mailbox, like in your physical mailbox.
You are now listening to Marketing Over One, a podcast where I chat with the marketers behind the companies and the campaigns you see in the world today. They share everything, how they got into marketing, the strategies and the tools that they use, how they charge for their services, and the mistakes and successes they have made in their career. Each episode is unfiltered and a masterclass. So come join us. I am your host as always, Olaomi Olani. Hello and welcome to another episode of Marketing Over Wine. With me today, I have Lisa Apolinski. Lisa is a digital marketer, a content coach, an international speaker, and author. A CEO of Three Dog Rights Inc., a full-service digital consulting agency, Lisa founded in 2012. Lisa currently works with business leaders who want to accelerate revenue and take market share using digital growth strategies. Although Lisa has been in digital marketing for 2 decades before founding her agency, bringing her years of experience to over 30 years. That's amazing.
Makes me sound super old.
Oh, well. In the last 10 years, Lisa has helped her clients create nearly $1 billion in revenue growth. She has also been featured on Forbes.com on multiple occasions for her expertise in digital marketing growth strategies. And because of her work with companies to help them develop and share their digital messaging, Lisa has been dubbed America's Digital Content Futurist. Glad to have you join me on this episode, Lisa.
Yes, thank you for having me, Nimi. I'm excited. I don't have wine. I have coffee because it is early.
I can have wine because of my voice, apparently. So
that is okay.
All right. By the way, I love the agency's website, the Three Dog Rights website. The poor idea instead of the usual mouse arrow. That's badass and it's so original.
So I have to give props. So I have we call them my peanut butter and jellies, my partners that I work with.
All right.
Where they bring me in if I need help, I bring them in if I need help. And one of my PB&Js is workforce commerce, and it's with Fahad Shakil, and he's like amazing. And they come up with the funnest and craziest stuff for your website.
That's amazing.
My website, he just did it just a few months ago, and I'm horrible in that I changed my website like interior decorators redo their rooms because it's just the thing that you do, and it's not necessary, but I do it anyway. And I wanted a new website, and he did it, and he's like, oh, I have a great idea.
Yeah.
So it's those small touches, and that includes your content, that when you're doing marketing and you're trying to have an experience that stands out, it doesn't have to be huge. It just has to be something that's unique and helps make the experience something different than what they're used to for them to remember and to be able to say, hey, that's kind of cool, and then continue to have conversations with you.
That goes to say that even though I have visited a lot of websites since I checked through your website, there is one thing I was able to remember. It was that poll. And no matter the number of websites I visit, I would always remember, oh yeah, there was this particular website that had this poll on it. And I think it also goes to show that uniqueness in anything, whether it's in terms of your content or in terms of your website UX or UI, can even make people remember your brand.
Yeah.
So yeah,
exactly.
well done on that. Let's start in that area. I've been so curious, by the way, where did the name come from? Three Dog Rights, where did they come from?
Yeah, everyone asked me about that. So I founded my agency. It's going to be 12 years in March,
Wow.
which is also kind of banana sandwiches. And when I was forming my company, this was I started doing side work back in 2010, 2011. The recession had hit the US. Every single marketer lost their job, me included. It took me over a year to get work, which was crazy. Yeah, it was just stunningly horrible. And I had started when I got my job, I had to take a significant pay cut in order to secure the job. But you took what you can, right?
Yeah.
And I needed to supplement my income. And so several of the vendors that I used to work with and colleagues that I used to work with asked me if I would do blogging for them, because blogging was becoming very, very popular, a very big thing in order to drive traffic to websites. And so I was doing a lot of writing. I probably put in 75 to 80 hours a week with my full-time job and my side gig.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot. But I love writing. So I was like, okay, I can do this. And I knew I needed to form my company at that point. And I was thinking, what's a good name? And I had 3 rescue pugs at the time, and a 3-Dog Night song came on the radio. And I was like, 3-Dog Night, 3-Dog Right. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And people who are 3-Dog Night fans immediately, recognize and remember the name of my company. And so I was like, that's probably an interesting play on words. And it would allow me to show that it really is about content. And for me, it's always been about content and how you communicate with your future clients to really show your value.
Yeah.
So that's how it came to be.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, let's take it back to the very beginning then. How did your journey as a digital marketer, and even in marketing as a whole, how did that journey begin?
Yeah. So I started doing marketing back in the 90s.
Wow. So basically, we're taking it back about 30 years behind.
Yeah.
It's like we have a time capsule presently.
Yeah. So I started marketing before the internet was a thing, before digital marketing was a thing. I was trained in traditional marketing tactics, direct mail campaigns.
Okay.
I remember, and I'm again going to age myself, but anyone who's on this listen to the podcast, if you remember mail merges, where you would have thousands of addresses and you would print them to the printer on letters, and then you would do corresponding envelopes. And God help you if someone tried to print something in the middle of your 2,000 mailing, and it could be 2,000 or 3,000 letters that you would send out.
Wow.
And then having to stuff the envelopes, seal them, and then take those to the post office in the back and do bulk mailing things, where you're just carrying these cartons upon cartons of letters for them to mail out. It was so crazy. But that's where I started, doing direct mail postcards, doing phone calls. Phone calls were a thing back in the day. And still doing that even when we started to build websites, we started to do email. We still were leaning into those traditional marketing tactics.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of what you do in digital is very much tied to what we did in traditional marketing.
Yeah.
If you open up a letter, if you don't get them in the first couple sentences, they throw the letter away. If the data isn't accurate and you send it to the wrong address or you send it to the wrong person, there was a huge cost if you addressed a letter to the wrong individual. Let's say it's the wrong department, or it's not the person who's the decision maker. You're paying for the paper, you're paying for the ink, you're paying for the time to do the mail merge, you're paying for the postage.
Wow.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah,
and
a lot of it.
Yeah. So you had to get really good at making sure that your lists were clean, that you didn't have returns, that you weren't sending it to wrong people. It really made you tighten up your practice because, money has and always will be tight when it comes to marketing.
True.
we're still going to be looked at as an expense, even though the role of marketing is so critical now, making the sales revenue projections a reality.
Yeah.
And, creating websites and putting everything on the homepage, like just throwing it all on there and having like one big page that just is just like, like just a bunch of information. And to see things progress, to see how email has progressed, to see how automation has progressed, and to see how people are still getting stuff wrong. I don't know about you, but it makes me kind of crazy when I get email upon email upon email upon email from a company that I haven't yet engaged with, but they're treating me like I need to spend money with them. And I don't have that trust and relationship factor going yet. And it actually becomes irritating to get emails from them because it's like getting, you used to get a bunch of spam mail in your mailbox, like in your physical mailbox. And it's,
What I do immediately, I get emails like that. I scroll downwards to the bottom. I look for the unsubscribe button there, and then I click on it. That's all.
Yeah. And I sometimes do that as well, but 9 out of 10 times I delete it, I block it, and it sours me to that organization as a whole.
Yeah.
And if they had something that was relevant to me, I don't feel like I would want to do business with them. It feels very swarmy.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
On the flip side, there's a company that I have yet to be a client with, and I'm planning on doing that in 2024, Predictive ROI.
Okay.
And I have done intensive free webinars with them. I have done, I've listened to their podcast. And so when I get an email from Steven, who is the founder of it, I open it and I read it because when he sends me an email, he doesn't do it very often. And when he does, I know it's something that's going to help my business.
Yeah.
He's established that for me. So he doesn't do a bunch of quantity. He focuses on the quality of the email.
Yeah.
And anytime I get an email from Steven, I open it. That's what I want every single one of my clients to start practicing.
Okay.
It's fine to have automation, but do it in a way where it's always of value. And so you're, in a way, training your future clients that when a communication comes from you, they want to read it because they know that you're there, you're in their corner, and you're going to help them grow their business.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think this also goes to say that one very major mistake many marketing teams or even sales teams make is not segmenting their target audience into different stages of their sales funnel.
Right.
For someone who reaches out to you, you have never engaged the brand before, the kind of content they are supposed to be sending to you should be different, very different from someone who has probably passed through all the other stages and who is already a lead and is in the conversion stage. That one can be a different kind of content. But for you, it will probably be, off the top of my head, it would be something around brand awareness, which is the podcast you talked about. It would also be maybe webinars to just build brand awareness, to make you trust them. And then when you move across the funnel, then they can start trying to convert you into customers.
Yes.
But it's a mistake many brands make and many sales teams make.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And, when you're starting your communication with your list and actually trying to build an email list of right fit clients that could become a client, whether in a day or a decade. I think the first types of emails you should be sending them are things where you're being of service to them.
Yeah.
Hey, I have this webinar that I do once a month, and I do a webinar once a month. It's totally free. Hey, I have this newsletter on LinkedIn where I give tips, and it's totally free. Hey, I have a book coming out, which I do. I have a book coming out.
That's amazing.
And if you'd like to get on the email list so you know as soon as it's dropping, because I always do a 99-cent Kindle sale. So you can pay 99 cents and get a fantastic book that's going to help your business. And if you can write a review, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's making sure that they're in the know for things that would create opportunity for them, to create possibility for them, and to help them move that needle forward, whatever that success point looks like. And, I think those types of communications, to have that automated stuff, is great. And like you were saying, if you're not truly segmenting your list, and there's no excuse for it anymore. These email platforms, you could put tags on them. You can create the tags. You can segment down to 30 or 40 or 50 people, which, to me, do it that way. And set up your funnels that way so that it's highly, highly targeted, as if you're looking at your list and you're sending individual emails. That's what people want. They want to feel special. They want to feel like this is personalized for me. And, they understand that there's some automation behind it, but, you can group people into smaller segments where you truly are speaking to them. And that's, to me, that's the most important thing.
Definitely. One thing I try to tell people is that we care about ourselves. We want to feel important. We want to feel more than just statistics or more than just one of the emails on your list. So if brands, like you say, can do that, can speak to me personally, like I matter to them. Like if I don't make this purchase, the company will go bankrupt. Something like that. If they can speak to me that way, like I'm the most important thing to them since the Big Bang or since the internet, then I would surely want to buy from that company. I would surely want to even recommend that brand to other people.
Yes. And, so my next book that's coming out is on personal branding. The greatest personal brand story ever told. And the reasoning behind the book, so I'm part of the Uprising community with Mark Schaefer. And Mark Schaefer did a book on marketing rebellion and the most human brand wins. And that's becoming more and more prevalent, that people purchase from people they know, like, and trust. And if they feel like they know you, not your company, but you, and you can empower people in a larger company to have those kinds of relationships where they go, I trust that salesperson, I trust that customer service person, and they develop those relationships. To me, that's the way to make your brand more human. And there has to be an investment then in that one-on-one relationship. And it doesn't have to, you're not like inviting them over for Sunday dinner. It's not like that, but there has to be some connection within the community for that conversation to happen. And when you have those types of communities that you've created, and you have those types of connections, the content helps to foster and strengthen those and helps you be top of mind. And if another company comes along, they're like, no thanks, I'm good. Because people will talk to a new competitor if they're not happy with what you're doing. And if you're investing to make sure that there's that relationship, they have that connection to you. And so they're less likely to be lured away by somebody else. And again, whether they become a client in a day or a decade, they can also still talk about you to others. Wouldn't that be a lovely idea?
Definitely.
That you have prospects that maybe haven't completely converted, but are telling about their experience to other people who maybe will be like, oh, I need those services now, and become a client. And there has to be that investment in sharing your story, because people are hardwired for stories, and your story matters. You have to be a little vulnerable, you have to be a little open, and you have to be willing to play the long game. That's something that some companies and some small businesses still struggle with, that it is a long game that you are playing. You are trying to gain traction with a whole bunch of customers, but you want to do it over a long period of time, because we don't know we don't know what's coming down the pike. We've had the global pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it'll be a zombie apocalypse. Maybe it'll be, a meteor shower or an alien invasion. I have no idea. But people still buy.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It may not be as many people, but there are still people who buy.
Yeah.
And if you've invested in those relationships, those weirdo times, you can ride them straight through and you will be okay. And people who haven't invested, who haven't put in the work, are going to fall by the wayside.
Yeah, that's true. I'll come back to this question. There's something I want to ask you regarding what you just talked about, but I'll come back to it.
Okay.
But speaking of misconceptions, what misconceptions do people have about your job as a digital marketer? What are some of them you've had people say day to day?
The biggest misconception that I've heard, because I do content creation and coaching, is that people think that I am a copywriter. I am not, and not that I'm slamming copywriting, because it is a very necessary skill. I am more than just a copywriter, because I look at content creation and strategy as part of your business development and actually attracting those right fit clients. What I coach and what I do is around strategic development of content so that you're constantly filling your funnel, you're constantly attracting more clients who will convert quicker at a higher dollar value. And who doesn't want that? That's the trifecta. And, I'm not the cheapest person on the block, but I bring a very specific and necessary value set that once people have worked with me, they go, oh, I get it now. She's not just writing copy for my website. She's writing content that touches, moves, and inspires audiences to call. It is memorable. It shows features and benefits in a storytelling format so that it's relatable. It establishes us as an authority power, which again allows you to charge more money because people will pay for something that they believe is of value. Some people might say, oh, well, you can use AI for that. AI is a tool that helps you create content. It does not replace content strategy. It does not replace understanding your audience. It does not replace segmentation. And it certainly does not replace the creative process of sharing your stories and how you uniquely help your prospects or your clients get to their future success point. It will never replace that because it is reiterating what's already written on the internet. In order for it to work as a tool, you take that information and then you insert your unique stories and experiences into the content so that it becomes uniquely yours, your DNA, your personal branding. I have a vendor that I work with who had been doing blogs using AI, and he reached out to me yesterday and said, Google doesn't like it because Google doesn't like it because they don't want you just pumping out content upon content upon content. There has to be quality there. And I need it to have a unique flavor to it so that it stands out. I need you to help me with this. That's awesome. That's fantastic that he recognized that, hey, I'm not a writer. I tried to use the tool, but I really do need to bring somebody else in to help me, which is great. And it's very easy to try to say, well, it's just content creation. That's like saying it's just air that you have to breathe. It is super critical in order to communicate, to connect, and to start those conversations that lead to that revenue.
I've had people who I wanted to work with, and that when I tell them, oh, hi, this is the amount I charge, this is what I'll be doing for your brand. The first question they say, and this is an issue among tech founders. The first thing they say is it not just to write? Is it not just to come up with this sort of content? You can use AI. There's so many tools out there. And I think this is why people say that most tech startup founders should sort of have a degree or should sort of know something about marketing, because it helps them even appreciate marketing.
Yes. Oh, I totally agree. And it's just, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yep.
If someone asks that, I feel like they're inviting you in to help them understand the value that you bring. And when I talk to them about content, and if they could do it by themselves, they would. Sure. Let's be honest. If they were good enough to, if they had writing background, if they had a marketing background, and they could leverage AI and do it themselves, then they wouldn't be having conversations with you or I. When they reach out to us, it means that what they're doing isn't working, or, and I hear this probably the 80% of the time, I spent this money and I didn't get any of the results I was expecting. Yeah. If I had $1 for every time I heard that, I wouldn't have to work. And that's one of the problems that I solve. I want you to stop doing these marketing activities that have no ROI results. I want you to stop wasting your money, your hard-earned, sought after and fought for money on things where they promise either ridiculous results or a super quick fix, and neither one can really happen. Yeah. And, marketing is like a climb with no summit. Wherever you are, you still have 100% to go. Yeah. And that means that you have to put the time in and the work in. Gone are the days when digital was new and you could do something and you'd get like 1,000 people showing up at your door. Yeah. Those days are long gone. The internet itself is doubling in size every 18 to 20 months. 18 to 20 months, it gets twice as big. Wow. That means that's a lot of content that you're now fighting against. Yeah. So how are you going to use your content to rise above that digital noise? And if you think, I just pump out more, then you're part of the problem. Yeah. And you're the reason why the internet's growing at such a ridiculous rate. But if you are providing content that truly helps people, has value, and helps them get at least one roadblock removed, they're going to remember that. And they're going to come back to your content again and again, and they're going to seek you out. Yeah. And that, to me, I like those types of engagements where the prospect has sought me out, has seen my content, has heard me speak, has read one of my books, and is like, wow, I think this person knows what she's talking about. Yeah. And then they contact me, and I don't have to kill myself to show the value, because I've already done the work. Yeah. I've done a whole bunch of pre-stuff. Yeah. And, when they come to me, and if their only focus is price, they're not a right fit for me. Because the ROI that I can show when I create content over 6 to 12 months is 200 to 300%. Wow. And it continues. Yep. That's the beauty of content. Once I create it and teach you how to do it, you go forth and you create content that's fantastic, that is persuasive, that attracts those right fit clients. Yeah. So that ROI continues really for your lifetime, because I've now given you the knowledge and the tools to do it yourself. And that's part of what I love to do. I love to teach and shove you out of the nest and say, fly. And sometimes they don't like being pushed out of the nest, but I'm like, you've got this. I mean, no one knows your story better than you. Yeah. I will show you how I do it, but I really want to make you a writer as well, so that you are creating content that people seek out, that people want to read, that people want to engage with. And it sets up their expectation of how the relationship will go. And imagine that with your content, you get prospects who call you up and their question is, what do I have to do to work with you? How do I work with you? And you're going, well, hold on. Let's talk about what you're looking for. No, I just want to work with you. Can I just throw some money at you and we work together? And you're actually having to put the brakes and say, well, let's be clear as to what we're doing. Let's be clear as to what the objectives are. Let's be clear as to what success looks like. Yeah. Let's talk about pricing. And they just go, whatever you're telling me to pay, I'll pay. I know you're going to help me. I know you're going to help me solve this. Go, 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 go. And imagine getting that over and over and over and over. Yeah. Versus, well, why would I have to pay for this? And isn't it just this? And that seems like a high price. And convince me that it's no. No. If you're, and I know everyone who's listening to this podcast, you have an area of genius.
Yeah.
You have an area that you can do that really nobody else can do the way you can. I believe that. And if that's the case, which I know it is, then why would you sit there and have to try to fight and justify for what you do and how much you charge for it? You certainly wouldn't go up to Gordon Ramsay and say, well, I don't know if I want to pay that much for the meal or for you to teach me how to cook.
Yeah.
He would tell you, okay, bye, get out of my kitchen. And I believe everyone has that. Mm-hmm. There's something that you do and you may think, well, this is kind of basic, and I actually, again, with predictive ROI, we went through, what do you do, and write it all down. And it may be something that you think is very, very obvious, that you're like, everyone should be doing it this way. And if you have those, it's probably gonna be that is actually a unique differentiator of you, and it's not obvious to everybody. Yeah. And by highlighting it, people will go, oh my God, that's genius. And you'll be like, really? And that's okay. Because if it is obvious to you, then it's something that you will do over and over and over. True. I have, one of the things that I do, and I like doing this for a couple of reasons, but I offer a free 20-minute consult with anybody. Anybody can book an appointment with me and we'll talk for 20 minutes, totally free, and they'll get basically free coaching. I do it regardless. And the reason why I do it is, number one, it helps me to see what problems are out there and to see if the problems that I'm addressing are still relevant. So it helps me. And number two, it helps me connect with my community, show up for them, and help them see a future state of success that maybe they hadn't thought was possible before. And when I do that, I also can see how well they receive feedback in coaching. And it is amazing to me how some business owners, and I have not noticed this with agency owners, but I have noticed it with small business owners, and I touch wood, I hope that doesn't come back to bite me. I've noticed that, and it's not all the time, but you do get a couple of people who are just digging their heels in with the way they're doing things, even though they're going off a cliff. They're headed to the cliff, they're driving full speed, you're screaming at them, hit the brake, turn, something, you're gonna go off the cliff, and they're going, no, it's fine. And they're calling me and we're having this coaching session, and they are absolutely resisting any other possibility. Even when you walk them through it in a kind and gentle and professional manner, and you're saying, well, why did you choose this? What were the results? Is that where your target audience is? Is that, and they see what the answer is, and yet they still go, no, it's fine. Because they have an emotional story attached to that decision. Instead of looking at it logically and saying, oh, I made a business decision and I spent, I'm just going to arbitrarily pick a number, $3,000 on that, and that was a mistake. It's an expensive mistake, but mistakes only really cost if you don't learn from them. You can take that and you can move forward, and now that becomes your wisdom, and you know not to do that again, and that's okay. We learn by doing. And when they're just digging their heels in and they're going, no, I think it's fine, and you're like, okay, we just went through this exercise and it's clear that this is why that didn't work, yet you're going to invest more money in that. I don't think you and I are a good fit. I like to see my clients win. I like to win. I want to see people have success. That's what gets me up every morning, is I can help my clients move the needle and see them increase revenue. And we are over $1 billion in new revenue that I've helped clients create. I like those numbers. I want to keep going. I want to get to 2 billion. I want to see people have more success than they even thought possible, and to do it in a way that is sustainable, that can be self-sufficient, or they can farm it out to a vendor and still have the right results because they have the foundational knowledge of that content and of that strategy to move the needle forward with assistance. I love that. And if they're not willing to accept free advice, and I am not cheap, again, I'm going to say it, I am not cheap, and I know I'm not cheap, but that's because I get results and people make money when they work with me.
Amazing.
I've had clients say, I didn't like you when I first met you, but then I listened to you and I made money, and I thought, you know what? I like this woman a lot. And I'm okay with that. You know, I'm not here to say, oh, good job. I'm not here to say, oh, that's okay. I'm here to help you realize and to tell you, you need to eat your vegetables if you want to lose weight. And you are going to lose weight if we do this, because that is your goal. And if you're looking for someone that's just going to be a yes girl and, you know, pat you on the head while you go off the cliff, that's not me. I want to make sure that you're successful. That's what you're paying me for. You're paying me so that you can hit that success point. If you want someone that will just validate your choices, there's a lot of agencies out there that will do whatever you ask of them, even though they know that you're not going to get the results you need. And if they want to do that, that's fine. I personally, you know, I am a CMC. I'm a certified management consultant. And as part of my CMC certification, I adhere to a code of ethics. And part of that code of ethics is I will not engage with you if you will either resist what I'm saying or you will spend money with me on things that I know won't work. Or they won't work like you think. And I won't take your money and go, oh, well, that's not me. I'm not looking to be the biggest agency. I'm looking to have the most impact with the most people and send them out into the universe and evangelize for themselves on how they've used content to attract right fit clients. That is my goal. And I'm not going to be a fit for everyone, and I'm okay with that. But if you want to win and you want to make money and you want to use your content, which, by the way, if you're really strapped for cash, you can create your own content. Content is free. You can create content. You can use AI tools that are free. You can post on social media channels that are free. You can send emails that are free. So again, to me, there's no excuse why you can't create a great content strategy, a small amount of money in it, and then go out and do everything you wanted. And you can either do it yourself, and again, free, it's just the time you're using, or you can hire a vendor and you know what works and you can help guide the vendor and you're both successful. And that's an awesome relationship. I would take that all day.
All right. Earlier on, you mentioned storytelling in your marketing strategy stuff.
Yes.
How do you use storytelling in your marketing strategies? What is the idea? How do you do it? How do you go about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So it no longer feels like a buzzword, which makes me super happy. So I wrote a book with my publisher, Henry DeVries, on Persuade with a Digital Content Story. And it was actually a award-winning book. It was named one of the top 11 content marketing books in the world in 2021, which was amazing. And the whole premise is that people understand stories and parables. When we hear a story, we are more likely to remember it. We are more likely to see ourselves in it. That's key. And we are more likely to share it with our community. We talked about earlier that having evangelists for your brand. If I talk to you about features and benefits of a chair, and I'm just going to take an example, okay? And I'm trying to sell you a chair, and I'm talking to you about features and benefits of a chair, and you know that you can sit, and it has 4 legs, and it comes in different colors. You're not, I mean, that's great, but it's nothing that's going to get an emotional response from me. If a chair was a new thing, and you were like, okay, well, we've been sitting on cushions on the floor. I don't understand the appeal, blah, blah, blah. But now let's say I told you a story that my brother, and this is a true story, my brother, who at the age of 19 had bone cancer in his leg, and he lost his left leg to bone cancer.
I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah, thank you. Well, he's 50. How old am I? He's 58. Yeah, so he's good. And I created this thing called a chair so that it would be easy for him to rest and get back up. And, it would be comfortable and it would be sturdy and it would support him. You'll remember that story you'll remember. If I just talked about it has 4 legs, but who cares? But now you have a story behind why I created the chair. And again, that's a made-up example, obviously. But there is a story behind why you went into business.
Yeah.
There's something there. There was a catalyst and something was happening, and then a catalyst happened and it put you on a new path to create something. What is that story? A lot of companies don't want to share that story, which is weird.
Yeah.
Because it's personal, because it's human, because it's vulnerable, but it's also memorable and relatable. If I'm talking about my brother, maybe your grandmother is getting up in age, and that is something that she'd be able to use. Now, I wouldn't know that talking about my brother, but you've taken the story that I've shared and you've made it relevant to you.
Yeah.
Now, suddenly you can see yourself using that chair. You can see yourself supporting an elderly grandparent. Am I talking about price? No, I'm talking about value.
Yeah.
I'm making it decommoditized because it's setting up a future state.
Yeah.
And if you're seeing how your grandparents could sit in chairs, and this is a new concept for you, you will pay whatever I say because you've already said, oh my God, I can do this for my family. Oh my God, I could do this for myself. And now price is a secondary conversation.
That's true.
When you focus on features and benefits, it's not that it's bad. I don't want people to think that I'm adding morality.
No.
It's not right or wrong, good or bad. It's simply how you are presenting information.
Yeah.
So if I focus on features and benefits, then it automatically goes to cost.
Yeah.
It automatically goes to the price associated with the features and benefits. And if I perceive the price to be comparable to the features and benefits that I'm receiving.
Yeah, that is something Apple brand has mastered a lot.
Yes.
Every year when they launch a new product, they hardly focus on the features, or when they do, they even tie that feature around with the community.
Yes.
So yes, they can talk about the features, but again, they're giving you another backstory to that feature.
Yeah.
That you can use that feature to communicate with other people or to even do something magical.
Yes.
And I think that's the idea. Even if a brand wants to talk about the features, yes, they can go ahead and do that, but adding a story to that makes it 10 times better.
Yes. And I would even take that a step further. When you're talking about features and benefits, you're staying in the realm of this is the product.
Yeah.
When you share a story, and if you share a persuasive story where you talk about what the client or customer got as a result of working with you, as a result of buying your products and services, now you're taking it beyond you. It's no longer about your product, it's about your client, your customer, and what they value.
Yeah.
And when you do persuasive storytelling, you are now helping them to move into that future state.
Yeah.
And I will argue with anybody, including consumer products, you're not selling the consumer products. You're not selling the services. You're selling a future state that happens because they purchase those products and services.
Yeah.
How you make them feel. I mean, imagine if you had one pain point and that was removed by a vendor.
Yeah.
One really awful pain point. And if it was poof, bippity boppity boop, gone tomorrow because of that vendor.
Yeah.
What would that future state look like? How would you feel? What would you be able to do? How quickly would you be able to move? Would you be able to sleep better at night? Would you be able to focus on something else? That's what your products and services are doing. And a lot of times, and I think it's because before we didn't have to have this human element, it was very transactional.
Yeah.
I mean, and this was true even up to before the pandemic. It was like springtime in the Serengeti and there was water flowing and there was food enough for all the animals and everyone was just like, do-do-do. And it was fine. And, you'd be like, well, here's what I have. And either you buy it or you don't. And if they didn't, you'd have another person coming right along and it could be very transactional and lazy. That is a lazy way of doing marketing and building relationships.
Yeah.
And then the summer happened and all the water dried up and all the grass died, and now there is very little. There's still some, but there's a very finite amount. And the companies that actually invested in that relationship building, in helping current and future clients see that future success point, are the ones that are going to get the calls. And again, it's not that it's right or wrong, good or bad, but I would rather my clients work so that they can ride out any storm that's coming. They can continue to grow. In times of recession or uncertainty, they can actually gain market share, which puts them into a much better position when things right themselves within the economy. And they are making sure that they're always focused on the value to their customer or their client.
Yeah.
Once you lose sight of that and you're only focusing on yourself, and you're only focusing on your features and benefits, it really becomes a price war, and that is a straight shot to the bottom.
Sure.
When you're competing on price, there's nowhere to go but down.
Yeah. When you wrote your book, Persuade with a Digital Content Story, you mentioned that one of the digital marketing strategy struggles that you faced was how to get customers to read your digital content and how to create content that cuts through the digital noise.
Yes.
Now, tapping from your wealth of experience, how can marketers building a personal brand create content that cuts through the digital noise?
So the first thing that I think all marketers should be doing is to be incorporating storytelling within their content so that it shows examples of that future state of success.
Okay.
And in my book, there is a 6-step digital content story formula. I am a huge proponent for process documentation and repeatability, because the more you repeat something, the better you get at it, the more efficient you get at it, and the more successful you are.
Yeah.
No reason to recreate the wheel every time. And this is, I hate to say it, but this is taken from Hollywood. Hollywood does this with movies and TV shows all the time.
Yeah.
They set up their main character, which is their hero, the protagonist. They introduce their nemesis, the nemesis character. They bring in a mentor character, because if the hero could do it, that he or herself, it would already be done.
Yeah.
Right? So they need a mentor to help guide them, not do it for them, guide them, because they're in uncharted territory. The process is always looking at character centric.
Yeah.
So again, as a result of working with me, or as a result of doing this process, my client was able to, and then you fill in the blank. Always then puts it on what the client gets out of the engagement, not what you've done, but the results of what happened. There's always a clear success point. So when you're setting up your story, you talk about what the success point is, because there's got to be a success point, so that you know that the person got to the end. And again, sometimes Hollywood does it so obviously,
very obvious.
It's actually kind of funny, where they hit you over the head with it. Like Joe the Underdog Story, which was it's an American movie about dodgeball, and he needed $50,000 to pay off his taxes for his gym, and the dodgeball tournament grand prize was $50,000. Very, very obvious.
Yeah.
And I think there's no reason to be subtle. Just, you know what the success point was. You know what their goal is. And I always ask my client, what's your goal? Like, how will we know we've hit a success? Is it that you've hit a certain revenue dollar? Is it that you've hit a certain number of clients? Is it that you've increased your revenue by a certain percent? What is it? And it's okay to have multiple. You just share one in your story, but you have a goal.
Yeah.
So you have their client clearly succeed. And then at the end, because we like to wrap things up in a story, we have a moral. And this is what I like to call one of your many magic words and phrases. It's something that is relevant to the problem, and it's something that is memorable and repeatable, so that if nothing else, they can remember that one line, that one sentence, and it immediately triggers the story.
Yeah.
They don't have to have all the details right, but if they hear that magic word and phrase, immediately they get it. One of mine is marketing is like a climb with no summit. Wherever you are, you have 100% to go.
Yeah.
Another one of mine is I live in the world of multiple right answers, which means there are many ways to go after a problem.
Yeah.
So, and then you end it, and when you set it up that way, it's also clear that the story ended. And again, Hollywood will say the end. Ta-da! But to have that structure within your content, and you can do that with, and again, in the book, I set up several different stories so that it's clear how that story can go. I show examples from either my clients or from me personally. And again, having that formula and making sure you hit all of those points makes it succinct. It makes it structured. So again, you're in a way training your audience on how they're going to receive your information, your client information, your features and benefits. And if it's done the same way every time, they know what to expect. It's familiar to them, and they just take it in. And this can be done with educational content. This can be done with client success stories. This can be done with features and benefits. And it can be done over multiple channels. You can do this in a series of tweets. You can do this as a short form video. You can do this as an email. You can do this as a white paper. You can do this in your content on your website. There's just multiple ways that you can do this, and you can do it while you're talking to people. The fastest way that you can share something is to make it relevant to them. And the longer you have to explain your features and benefits, the less likely it is that your audience will understand it, will trust it, and will move forward with you.
Diverting to small business owners now, how can small business owners make community engagement a key part of their marketing strategy?
So there are several ways to build community. But I think the first thing that always has to be done is you have to have something that you're willing to give away for free, that you're willing to be relentlessly helpful and call people into that. I'll give you an example. One of the ways that I am building and continue to build community is through my free monthly webinars. They're totally free. It's an hour. It's live, and they get to ask questions in real time. So we get to actually talk to people. It's not just, a speaker or me just doing a presentation for an hour. It's 20 to 30 minutes on the topic, and then it's opened up and we have conversation around it. People bring their problems and we share and we talk about it and we see how we can solve that issue. And by doing that, you're inviting people in and they can feel that community. I also do a LinkedIn newsletter, again, free. And I use my webinar. So I repurpose my content. I use my webinar. I drill it down into the top 3 things that I think is great for an audience or great for my community that they should know if they don't want to watch the full webinar or they weren't able to attend. Here are the cliff notes. And then I also link to the webinar on YouTube. I invite people to comment on it, in the comments. If I bring a guest speaker in, I tag them and then they share that with their community. And now we're having overlap of community and we're having further discussions. So it really is, I think, first and foremost, it's not about building an email list. It's not about, getting a bunch of prospects that you're sending communication to. The first thing is, how can I be relentlessly helpful to the right fit clients that I have identified that I'm in a unique position to help? I'm in a unique position to solve one of their key problems. And what can I do as a preemptive to help them before they ever give me even a dime? What can I do to show up for them? And it's really about showing up. The other thing that you can do, and I love this strategy, and it's forces people outside of their comfort zone, especially if they are not convinced that they have an area of genius. And again, I live in the world of multiple right answers, and I think you can have more than one take on a problem And I think that you can have multiple people who have a similar area of genius and they simply approach it in a different way.
Okay.
One of the things you can do on LinkedIn, and again, I do a lot on LinkedIn just because that is where my right fit clients live and breathe and are open to my message. That's a key component.
Yeah.
I have several influencers that I watch and follow and want to see what they're doing. And I support them. I comment on their posts. I share their posts to my community. I ask questions. I invite them into my webinars. So I am taking other thought leaders and I am augmenting their message within my echo chamber, which again helps them. It helps my community. And now I'm kind of bridging that community gap so that my community can also be part of their community.
Yeah.
And, there is safety in numbers.
Yeah.
And it's good to have communities like that, that come together and support each other, that come together and say, what can I do for you?
Yeah.
When I do a new connection on LinkedIn and they accept, I always thank them for accepting. And I ask them, what can I do to support you right now? And I think most people are like, hey, thanks for the connection. I'd like to set up a call with you to talk about my services and how you should be buying from me. Who does that serve? That serves you, not the connection you just made.
Yeah.
That's super self-serving. That's super sketch. I don't like that at all. And I certainly don't like it when someone has connected with me and the first email I get is this long thing with request for a 30-minute call. What have you done to even establish that request? That erodes community, by the way. That kills it. Yeah. But if you first showed up and just said, thank you for the connection request, what can I do to support you? Most people are not expecting that communication.
Yeah.
It certainly stands out. And I've had people say, oh my God, thank you for asking. Nothing at this time. Or, oh my God, actually, do you have a connection you can introduce me to for this? Or I'm looking to get into this. Or I'm creating this and I would love it if you reviewed it for me. And then I do it.
Okay.
That's the other thing. I don't ask and then go, nah, and ghost them. I do it.
Yeah.
And it really is, especially for small businesses, it might feel awful, but it's this idea of one connection, one a day, just like taking a vitamin. If you work on one connection a day where it's a personal, targeted, individual, one-on-one connection, and you do that every single day, it's amazing how quickly you can move the needle. And again, you're investing in individual relationships in a unique and value-driven way.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. How do you maximize a marketing campaign's potential to attract the perfect fit clients for a business?
Don't miss out on the second part of my conversation with Lisa Apolinski, coming your way next week Thursday from 10 a.m. GMT +1. Some of the things to look forward to that we talked about are the differences between a content marketer and a digital marketer, how to maximize a marketing campaign's potential to attract the perfect fit client for a business, challenges and lessons from Lisa's 30-year career as a digital marketer, how to find your next client as a freelancer or an agency owner, leveraging AI for content creation and other marketing tasks, unpopular tools Lisa uses day to day as a digital marketer, how she has stayed productive and recharged her creativity through the past 30 years, advice for anyone getting into or transitioning into digital marketing, and so much more. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, please take a minute to rate it on the platforms you use, whether it's Apple Podcast or Spotify. Ratings and reviews help us reach more amazing listeners like you so we can keep bringing you these insightful career conversations. See you in part 2. Cheers.